we started doing Persona 5. So this is gonna be a tier list. Tier list of every single Metroid game in existence. Even, well, not every single one. There might be something on here that I don't remember or whatever. And AM2R is on here as well. I was going to do a boss tier list, and then I realized, like, all the bosses in all of the, even all the Metroid Prime games are, like, there's a lot. Like, so I took this, and then you just multiply it by, like, 4. And and that's the tier list. And I'm like, I don't think I want to spend that much time doing a tier list. I'm prepared. And I don't even know, like, some of the bosses from, or some of the boss names or whatever from the games. The pictures were too small, and and some of these I just don't remember at all. So we'll go off of that. Okay, so let's see what we got first. I'm gonna do the first Metroid. I think the first Metroid first. I think the way I want to do this. Me actually. Don't mind that. Those are tags I decided to, like, try to put on the videos, and then I realized there's a better program to do that with. So, a few things I want to do. One is, I think you're ranking it off of, no, yeah, gameplay, okay, no, gameplay. It would be, I think impact as a whole on the Metroid series, or just Metroidvanias in general. I think that's a good one. And then, like, setting, mood, story. I think setting mood story would be a good last one to do. So those are that's kind of the idea of what I want to use to grade these. So I think those are good things to do, to have. So let's try with the first one. The first Metroid. God, I hate it when I hover over fucking Chrome and it brings the shit up. The first Metroid was a lot of fun. It was obviously the first, so it automatically gets a little bit more elevated, just because it's literally the first one. It wasn't the first one, I believe, to do it the best. Obviously this is a creation of a genre and just an entire series in general. So that in itself gets a little bit more attention. So the impact is very huge. One thing I didn't like, I remember this, having to use a shit ton of fucking missiles on the doors. The red doors. Absolutely horrid. Like, there would be a lot of times where you just didn't have the you just didn't have the missiles to do, like, anything. You have to go farm enemies and stuff, and that ends up happening in, like, other games as well. I didn't like that, but again, that's just what they wanted to use at the time. I don't know the design choice around that. But overall, the game's really good. The bosses, I think it's both Ridley and Kraid are in there. You only see Kraid in the speedrun, which is pretty interesting. And then you have Mother Brain. But yeah, overall, I think Metroid in itself as a game, despite its dated design and and everything like that. I think it's an A. I feel like for a base game, and it'd be pretty low A. I think I'd rate it more B plus, but I'm not gonna do that to the first game. I'm not gonna do that to the first game. I think I'm a little biased on that, but that's all right. Let's do, or is it Metroid 2? Metroid 2 is a fun one. Metroid 2 is a fun one. Unfortunately, it being on the Game Boy really limited it in terms of just how much like you could do with the game. However, the whole hunting the Metroids and a certain Metroid count and like hunting them across the planet, that was really cool concept. And that gets more explored in AM2R and Return to Samus. Otherwise, I don't know. It's not a bad game. It's not. It's one of those that's not really memorable, and I wish it got on the Super Nintendo. I think it would have been a lot better of a game if it got on the Super Nintendo before Super Metroid. I think that's where that suffers really. So I think Metroid 2. I think Metroid 2 is B tier. Dead honest. I just don't see myself rating it higher than anything than that. It's not bad. It's just pretty. I think it's the most forgettable game. Most forgettable Metroid game, kind of from that era, and it just suffers from that sequelitis, for lack of better terms. Speaking of now the music's on for the game. Fucking Super Metroid. Super Metroid. All right, y'all ready for my hot opinion on this? I'm kidding. I don't. God, I don't want everyone to hate me. I think Super Metroid is the game that made it a Metroidvania. Like, besides obviously Soten, we have Soten that that kind of made the whole Metroidvania thing like its thing. But this is the one that it established itself as like a juggernaut within its own genre, and there's nothing else that had been done like it up until that point. Still, like 1996, I think. This is a late Super Nintendo title. When did this come out? Oh wait, no, 1984. Never mind. I'm a dumbass. Why did I think 1996? 96 would have been around the time of the 64 almost, actually. Okay, 94, but I still kind of consider that a late Super Nintendo title. Yeah, it is absolutely a late title. Because the SNES released in 1990. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So 3.5 years after the SNES's release, you get this. And so they pretty much mastered the hardware at this point. Designing for the hardware limitations instead of around them, and you can really tell that in the music. But yeah, like I mentioned earlier, like the different settings, like parts of the planet. The boss fights are great. The gameplay, the movement and everything feels incredibly smooth, and that gets demonstrated in multiple speed runs as well. What else? It's just a very, very memorable game. Like, this probably should have been the follow-up to Metroid 1. Like, in terms of games, I don't think Metroid 2 being on the Game Boy was it just didn't do it any justice. But this just kind of redeemed the series in that regard. I know it's like y'all are kind of expecting it, but this is an S tier game. Especially the final sequences. I think the twist with the Metroid and everything else is just, I think it's one at that point it's all great plot devices, and all this is done without like really any text at all. It's just like your action platformer with upgrade progression and stuff like that it just doesn't say anything except through contextual clues and just small cutscenes. And so even despite that, it's just really, really good. So easy S tier here. I know that's like kind of expected, but what can you do? It is the game that defines genre. Also, look at that box artwork. Samus is firing a fucking beam, like a straight-on laser beam, not like a charge shot or anything like that. It's just a laser beam being fired at a fucking like jet red Ridley. Craziest shit I've ever seen. All right. What do we got next? I think AM2R is the one to do next. And honestly, that fan passion project was definitely one that really showed what they can do, or someone can do, if given the time and the ability, like, to make Metroid 2 better than it was. AM2R is easily it lacked polish, but it is easily nice. Easily from my experience, really, really good. Yo, thank you for the raid, Bear. Appreciate it, gamer. Yo, tier listing is good. Welcome, everyone. We're just doing a tier list, where we're shit-talking video games, and I am shading the bed. But yeah, I hope your stream was good. Alright. But yeah, AM2R, really good considering. I had only played early versions of it before it got like taken down or whatever. Unfortunately, because, you know, fucking Nintendo. I'm over here like fucking rating one of the greatest Nintendo series of all time, and I'm over here dying inside. Oh, you were playing Metroid? Oh shit, nice. But AM2R gets I think he gets an A, honestly. A above Metroid, because Metroid, again, like I said, it was, in my opinion, more of B+, but I didn't want to put it there. I didn't feel like it belonged there. Because I feel like Metroid 2, coming after that, is a much worse game. But AM2R, really, really, really good fan game. Y'all need to check it out. And that's not an endorsement to go download it or whatever, because I literally cannot do that. But I can say what you do with your free time, and your being is what you shall do. And I have no control of that. Eyes emoji. AM2R is really good. All right. What else we got? We got Metroid Fusion. Y'all want to do Fusion next? I think Fusion would be a good one. Okay. Fusion is something. And again, spoilers here for anybody who hasn't played any of these games, so yeah, keep that in mind. Fusion is good. It's great. It's actually my first Metroid game I have ever played. This one released, I think, around the same time Metroid Prime did. It was kind of like a combo release. What's up, Duct Tape? Good. It's a good gamer. Yeah, it was my first Metroid game, and it was weird because I thought like all the games were going to be like this. Like, it was kind of linear in the sense of not being able to sequence break stuff and everything, which is fine. Whatever. That's kind of a thing that came after, you know, with Zero Mission and whatnot. Like, I figured that stuff out through speedruns and other shit. Perfectly fine. But it's exciting because this thinking about this game like just gets me going. I want to play it again, actually. This is one of the ones that actually had story, like spelled out. Samus's monologue, Adam, you know, the whole Adam reveal and all that stuff, and just the turning of the Federation. Like, there was a lot of stuff happening here. This is probably one of the most lore-intensive games, or story-intensive, and it doesn't overdo it, which is good. Like, Samus doesn't talk that much, but there is a lot of inner monologue, and that's good. And that's good. I appreciate that. And this is a lot different from what we've seen before, because also more of like a horror experience with the SAX and everything. This is the one Metroid game that's actually like borderline horror game besides Metroid Prime 2. Prime 2 definitely had a good feel with that too, and we'll get to that later. Fusion really takes the formula and kind of, it doesn't flip it on its head, but it definitely turns it sideways with some of the things it introduces, especially with, you know, kind of the SAX stalking you throughout the entire game, and that kind of brings in the whole Mr. X Nemesis type of thing, or whatever, from like the Resident Evil series, for example. And I feel like it takes inspiration from that almost, and that's really cool. I put this one, I feel like I'm kind of biased because this is my first Metroid game I've ever played, but at the same time, I think it belongs there. This is going to be S tier, right below Super Metroid, just because Super Metroid kind of established that. Like, Super Metroid established what everything is. I think it's a bit more iconic than Fusion. It's hard. The story doesn't hit as hard Fusion, but the story for Super Metroid, though contextual and like just through cutscenes and everything like that, not directly like conveyed to you. It's still really, really good. Yeah, S tier under Super Metroid. All right, what we got next? Let's do Prime. Prime. Prime is... I'm so fucking biased when it comes to Prime. Listen to this fucking music. Like, it's so good. It's busted. This OST is busted. The gameplay casually, I think, is I think there's a problem with it. It's very good. It's very good, but it's very slow. Because you only have one analog stick, right? Everything else is for beam beam switching and stuff. So from a non-speedrunning perspective, I have like hundreds of hours into the Prime 80% run. But from a non-speedrunning perspective, it's really tank-like, it feels like. But in order to compensate for that, the developers really pushed intuitive controls and reactivity with your ability to perform jumps and other stuff. Like, there's a lot of stuff that developers did to make the game very intuitive and feel like very smooth. It's kind of like Melee. You know how like there's a whole bunch of like super sleek and awesome frame data when it comes to that. Well, it's kind of similar in concept to this, where there's like, it's just it rewards quicker inputs and things like that, and it doesn't punish like slower inputs and all that stuff. So it does give a high reward, which is really nice. But it doesn't punish the casual player, thankfully. Oh, catch you later, Bear. Thanks for the raid again. Enjoy the barbecue. Yeah, OST, the bosses. The bosses feel iconic. They feel like bosses, like they're massive. These things are more massive than they have been in scale and like ever. Besides like Kraid. Fucking any game involving Kraid, like he makes you feel like this, like fucking super tiny. So no Kraid, fucking lol. But you do get the you get the exo fight, which the exoskeleton for Prime is massive. Yeah, it's a great game. There's a lot of exploration. It takes cues, same as all the other games after Super Metroid. It takes cues from the different areas. Fire, ice, water. In this case, Phazon. You have your you have your pirate, or like Deep Zebus or whatever, like Turian. There you go. That's basically your impact crater, mines, whatever. All that good shit. So it takes a lot of cues from that. Prime is really good. And you don't think that they could make a first-person Metroid game work, but they did. And it's wondrous. S tier, but below Metroid Prime. Or not Metroid Prime, Metroid Fusion. That's all I gotta say on that. Now we have Echoes. Echoes is... it's a lot slower, but I think the game has more of an impact than Prime. Speaking of the lore in Prime is really cool. The scanning of the of the lore and having a lore book is really, really awesome. The log entries are a perfect way to introduce that stuff into the game, and I wish they'd continue that with Prime 3 like they did in Prime 1 and 2. Prime 2 introduces the first instance of being able to interact with the living character out of any in person out of any Metroid game, which is really interesting to me. Umos is the first person, if I recall correctly, that in game you can talk to, which is pretty crazy to me because that has not been done prior to that. So conversation actually happens in this game. Even though it's mainly one-sided, Samus just ends up like doing these, doing these weird things. Fusion, there's conversation and whatnot, but it's, to a computer and all that shit, or someone behind the computer. But this one gets handled differently in terms of that. You still have all the lore entries and whatever, but it's still really, really cool. Gameplay wise, it's basically the same as Prime casually. Speedrun wise, it's slower, but I'm not gonna dog it for that. There's a lot more bosses, there's a lot more content, a lot more kind of different backtracking. It's easy to get lost. It's so easy to get lost in Prime 2 because of how massive the world is. Oh my god. You also get introduced to the dark beam and light beam, all that good stuff. All awesome stuff. Instead of doing your normal basic elements of what they have in Prime, you go light dark. And then you double the size of the world with the dark world, which is I think, and this is again biased because this is my first Metroid Prime game, that I really like that concept of light and dark. I thought it was really fucking cool. The computer is your friend by the end. Hey, you right though? You right? Talking to a computer? Who does that? Like who would talk into a camera to a chat full of frogs? I mean, come on. Who would do such a thing? Not this guy. Prime 2, I think, suffers a little bit from being a little bit, maybe a little bit too long. But I think the collectathon in this game is a bit more rough than Prime 1. I'm gonna rate this A+, basically. Because I think it's really, really good. I think compared to Prime, I don't think it has that little bit of oomph to push it up over the highest of A tier, in my opinion. But it's like, it's definitely there. Prime 3 is, it's kind of sad. A lot more dialogue. There's a lot more like interaction or whatever. And there's just so much There's so much. Casually, that, like, go for a game where, like, only one person talks into, like, a game where everybody's, like, conversating with each other, and it's just, I think it takes away from the air of, like, the aura of, like, mysteriousness and kind of, like, urgency with the series. I kind of get that they were trying to bring personality to the game, but it just really didn't, you know, like, it just really didn't go over that well, in my opinion. It wasn't bad. I like the characters. Andrea was fun. Rundus was fun. Like, all great hunter characters, but it just, I don't know. It didn't do it that much for me. The different planets concept was really cool. There was a lot that went into them and everything. It really made the journey of the game feel like kind of, I guess, greater in scope, but it also made it feel a lot more sectioned off with each other, like where the worlds were just kind of just apart, and it felt like you were always calling your ship to go to these different parts of the these systems and everything, which again is fine, whatever, but and the corruption of your suit and everything was cool. It was cool in concept. That whole stuff with Dark Samus and Prime 2 was awesome. Here, it felt okay, but I don't know. I felt like as you got to towards the end of the game, things kind of got underwhelming. I know the final boss is underwhelming for me. Prime 2 was kind of like that too, but it made sense to have Dark Samus as the final boss with the after the Emperor Ing. Like, that kind of like felt like a closing out to that your arch nemesis like arc there. And here it's just like, yeah, I'm gonna fight you, and then I'm gonna fucking turn into a robot. Like, what? I'm like, okay, well, I guess. So, the game just didn't do it for me. It was good. It was good for what it was worth. The phase-on stuff was cool. The phase-on on command was really cool, but I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it could have been more, and that sucks because the first two games were just so good. Prime 3 gets a B+ over Metroid 2. That's how I feel about it. Ooh, excuse me. Metroid Prime Pinball. I forgot this was a game. I played this a little bit. Prime 3 fans, are there any? I got 'em. Metroid Prime Pinball. I'm a sucker for pinball games. I think I'm a sucker for pinball games. I shouldn't even be rating this, but whatever. Metroid Prime Pinball gets an A tier. An A tier because it's because of Metroid Prime Pinball, we have the concept of Metroid Prime Golf in our brains now, and so if Metroid Prime Golf happens, it will get like triple S tier. There's no contesting it. Triple S tier. What else we got? Metroid Prime Hunters. Prime Hunters was not bad. It's for a DS game, it wasn't horrible. It's good to play over and over again, like, in terms of the speed run. But I can't, you know, I can't use that here because this is more of a casual thing. It played surprisingly well for the DS, and that's like that's no easy feat. Like it really, really isn't. You don't you don't expect like a game like this to play that well for the DS, but it really really did it pretty good. I would say everything else just doesn't seem. I don't really remember a lot of a lot in regards to this game. I think we had to like deal with other hunters and everything like that, but it was overall pretty decent for a DS game. So Prime Hunters, in my book, I think it's gonna go B, just because it's another one of those that's not really that memorable to me, but it played surprisingly well on the DS. It kind of falls in line with Metroid 2 with me. Like, it just Prime Hunters doesn't feel like it belongs anywhere. It's just kind of there. All right. I forgot about Metroid Fusion, or not Zero Fusion. Zero Mission. Zero Mission is basically a remake of Metroid 1. It is an incredible game. Zero Mission is also where we get Zero Suit Samus and the whole the spy espionage mission for the the Metal Gear mission for our Metroid game with the pirate ship, which I thought was really cool. I think the sick game. It's really, really, really good. In my opinion, it definitely played better than Fusion. Honestly, at least it felt like it did, but it just didn't have enough. Word for it. Just didn't have enough meat to it, you know? Like it didn't have enough depth. And it makes sense. It's like the first game. It just added cutscenes and everything in terms of you know, adding a little bit more context for how things were progressing with Zebus and everything like that. But honestly, I don't know. It was just a really good game. I'm gonna rate it below AM2R, above Metroid. It makes sense to pair Metroid Zero Mission with Metroid. So it's like mid A tier. It's definitely there. Other M. Oh, here we go. These are the actually, like, objectively to a lot of people, the three, like, either worst or like not so good Metroid games in the series. Metroid Other M was ambitious. Team Ninja taking that on and doing that, I think was pretty cool. Though There were a lot of problems I had with the story, the way they portrayed Samus. There was just a lot of things wrong with that game. I remember the first time I played it, it wasn't bad. I just think I remembered thinking, why the design choices and everything. So it wasn't what I was expecting, and like coming back to it later, I wouldn't play it again. Every single one of these games on this, I would probably play again, but I would not do the same for Metroid Other M. So I'm going to rate that C tier. It just really, a lot of people remember it for how bad it was, and honestly, it wasn't terrible, but it was not that great. Federation Force. Everybody remembers Federation Force, right? the Metroid, no, is Metroid Prime Federation Force. Not just Metroid Federation Force, Metroid Prime Federation Force. This was a weird one. This one gets the most hate for sure. I don't even remember what this game was about. You were playing as, you were playing as Federation troopers, and just yeah, I think it suffers from that. Like, everybody wanted a real Metroid game. Federation Force was not it. Especially since then, what was the last game? The last game was like what, Other M? If I remember correctly. Up until that point, so it's been a few years. Like, what was Federation Force? 2010. Federation Force was like 2014, maybe later. Third Prime Federation Force. Was it? Wow. 2016? Are you fucking kidding me? Wow. That's crazy. I had no idea. And it's basically like a multiplayer only game. Next, that cooperative first-person shooter game, and then it takes place after the events of Prime 3. So I guess it's a kind of a bridging between like what Prime 3 and Prime 4 was supposed to be. But that's really unfortunate, because people were really wanting like something at least to hold them over. But you get Federation Force, and then you get Samus Returns. So that's brutal. That's really brutal. So that's super unfortunate. I'm sure it was, if I remember correctly, I know people had fun with the multiplayer mode and everything. And the main game was basically like, if you didn't have like a squad to play with or whatever, you just played multiplayer missions or whatever by yourself. So it was just kind of like, I guess their take on a cooperative game. Fed Force is just unfortunately bad. Yeah, like you mentioned, bad timing. Because people were really hungry for an actual game, and they didn't get shit. Like, hey, have this. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. I'll take it. That's why I would rate for this Federation Force. Some people will be like, "Why the fuck aren't you rating this like the lowest?" I don't think it belongs in D tier. I think it belongs in C+ tier. I think it was made as kind of like also like somewhat of a bridging game set up for Prime 4. But yeah. Or something of the sort, but it just, you know, it just kind of fell flat with a lot of audiences. But overall, it's not a horrible game. So C+, honestly. Then we got Metroid Samus. We got Samus Returns. A lot of people did not like this one. Again, it's just a style of a game. It just kind of, it felt like it changed. It became a lot more linear than what people were expecting and cutscene heavy. This is just another situation where it's, you know, bad timing, because everybody wanted to remake a Metroid 2, like at the time, and everybody was also pissed that AM2R got taken down. And everybody's like, okay, they're working on Metroid 2 or whatever. Cool, blah, blah, blah. Well, you get this. So the thing about Samus Returns is, again, it's just another, like, it didn't meet people's expectations, but it wasn't really a bad game. Same thing with Federation Force. Though Federation Force doesn't really belong in the Metroid series in general. Same with kind of Other M. Other M was just Other M. But Samus Returns is not a bad game. It just gets a lot of hate. And it's a lot of undeserved hate, unfortunately. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. It's up there, absolutely. Oh yeah, the free aim. Free aim is really good. It just honestly suffers in that regard with the timing. But I agree, it's a better game than what a lot of people were pretty much saying. I think Samus, yeah, exactly. I think Samus Returns. I think it belongs in B+. I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would, but it was still a really decent game. Prime Pinball, Prime Pinball is is up there above everything else, because Prime Pinball is excellent and you can't change my mind. But yeah, I put it above Metroid 2 because Metroid 2 is really B-. Samus Returns improves upon that, but again, the linearity kind of falls with Metroid 2 in itself. Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people were excited for the announcement than they were for the actual game. I joined to a meme that Fusion Hunters in Pinball should be SS tier, but you already half beat me to it, so good job, I guess. What's up, TKI? Yeah, exactly. The original just suffers from dated concepts, really. That's why I honestly rated it A tier. Because it really established what Metroid is. Like without that game and Super Metroid, we wouldn't have Metroidvanias today. It is, I agree. And the only reason I didn't rate it any higher is just because of the dated concepts and everything. But again, it's, you know, that's why I rated the sequels, or not the sequels, the remakes for those games higher than each other, because they're inherently better games that you should probably play casually over playing the originals casually. Yeah, I feel like this is a good list. I think my internet opinion is 100% correct, and nobody can disagree with me. But yeah.